It's Gil here at the Sailing Vessel Dream Chaser, and in this week's episode we are going to show you the work being done on the masts as well as the new paint scheme. And when we left you last week, this is exactly what you saw. They had taped off the boat and we're getting ready to add the second coat of primer and the first coat of underlayment marine paint. We decided to go ahead and take advantage of scaffolding being up around the boat already and the fact that the guys in the boatyard weren't working this weekend. We were going to leverage that scaffolding and start doing some sanding.
Well, I'm working up here on the bowsprit, doing a little bit of sanding. Let's see if I can aim this down here. Yeah, definitely perched up here a little ways. Let's see, yeah, that's a car down there. So, it looks pretty darn high when it's sitting out in the yard. Let's see if I can show you what it looks like here.
So up on top of the bowsprit, you can see I used the belt sander and I did a heavy grit. I think this is like 45 grit just to get it going. But I went ahead and sanded this in all the spots that I could get to. And the next step here is to remove these bow rollers. So I went ahead and took the nuts and bolts off of this and removed the rollers out of there so I could get behind it. And then it was just a matter of continuing to work down below on each of the supports and on the bottom side of the actual bowsprit itself. But I will say it's very tough on the calves after a little while standing on that ladder up that high the whole time.
And my feet are tired, my legs are tired. I'm going to do a little bit more and then I'm going to go undo the spreaders or something else to get me off the ladder. There it is, up yonder. That's where I'm going to be working.
So I started sanding the bowsprit, and it's surprising just how uncomfortable it is. I couldn't quite reach this high from the actual scaffolding, so I had to get up a couple more steps on the ladder. I went ahead and moved a little bit closer so you can see it, but it was just a matter of using an orbital palm sander and kind of working all along this. The bowsprit itself wasn't bad, but the underside of the actual platform that sits on top of it was really tough to sand. I went ahead and hooked the camera up in the very front of it, and you see this decorative piece, turning it sideways, loosening it up, and sanding it down to bare teak, but it certainly looks better that way. And this is called teamwork, so as I was working from the extension ladder on the bottom of the bowsprit, Deb was up top starting on the port side tow rail from on the deck itself. And you can see here we started with 150 grit sandpaper and then we would go over it with 220. And the results are starting to look pretty darn good, so that's what we got completed on this day.
So we came out to the yard today and we did a little bit of sanding. Did some on the bowsprit and a little bit on the tow rails as well. Got some more to do for sure, but a small portable belt sander has been tremendously helpful in getting this done. This is what the tow rails looked like before, and then you can start to see what they're starting to look like afterwards. So Deb got this part done, and up here is the bowsprit and plank. Well, they've started removing some of the hardware from my mizzen mast, and they were saying when they picked this up they thought this thing was teak. This is behind the actual stainless steel brackets, and I think they may be right. The damn thing may actually have been teak. Wow. This, on the one on the left here, the one closest to me, this is what was on the wooden mast, and this is cast bronze. You can see they sanded off a section to see if it was bronze, and it is. So this is cast bronze, and it worked well because it was thick, and the mast is very squared off, so these things were on a flat surface. The challenge on the new aluminum mast is it's more rounded, and they were hoping to use this piece of channel. It's an old sail track channel. I'll show you where it came off of the old mast in a minute. The good news is the gooseneck attachment point does fit on this. There's a little bit of play here, so I need to check with them and see if they're going to be able to make that a little thicker, or maybe we just get one of these with a narrower gap in the track itself. But the thought here was, you can see the attach points, how wide this is, right? So it's a good 1.5 inches wide versus here where the screw holes are right in the center of it. Let me show you what I mean by this on the actual mast. This right here is where that attached on this mast, and you can see it's a good flat surface because this is square wooden mast. When we come look at the new one, you can see that we're much narrower here, and it's got a bit of a contour. So the thought is to leverage something that will go inside the track, and I'll show you on the section of mast that's been cut off. you can see exactly what they were looking to do here, right? So they cut a piece of this whole track off of this lower mast that was cut, and that's what we're attempting to use to hold that gooseneck car. The inside of the new mast, they already have it marked with the different attach points for each item, right? So I can see here where the center of the winch is, where the cleat is, and what angle it's at. Here's all the different hardware and whatnot they've pulled off the mast.
One of the cool things about having the YouTube channel is getting to meet other people with these boats. So if you don't know Jay and Nikki from the channel Sailing Naughty Ohana, they have a Formosa 41, and we're asking questions about the spreaders and could you have a wooden spreader with an aluminum mast, and I was explaining a little bit about how we're dealing with this track. So I recorded this video essentially to send to them, but I thought others might find this interesting as well.
This is our small spreaders from our mizzen. You can see the stainless steel piece that attaches them that goes this way. On the right hand side is up, and if you notice there's this bolt here. It goes right through here, but this is all wood, and then there's just a small stainless steel bracket or U-shaped piece on the bottom side of the wood that keeps this from compressing too tight against it. So you can kind of see it here on this other one where I already removed the spreader, and then you can kind of see how it goes right between there. So yeah, you can definitely use wooden spreaders on your aluminum mast. So I'm up on the deck of the boat, and I'm assuming Deb came and talked to them today, or at least talked to them on the phone. They've got the deck cleared off, and we asked them for a price on what it would take to essentially glass the deck, as well as fix the sides of the coach house roof. We want to, or the coach house, we want to actually repair those and maybe even put a skin of glass over the top of the whole thing to really make sure that we stay good and waterproof. It looks to me like they started getting ready to really evaluate that. So they removed everything off the deck, and I mean everything, I mean literally like the deck boxes, a lot of that stuff's all pulled off of here. My guess is it's so they have more room to check it all out. But as I walked around, this is interesting too. Let me show you. Looking forward, you can see where we've sanded up there, but the doghouse in the front V-berth is is uncovered, right? Covers off of the hatches here. The deck's all cleared of everything. This is the one section of teak I haven't removed yet. But as I go toward the cockpit, I also asked them to take a look at this too. Said it might be a good time to get rid of this got off the chair that was sitting back here. So it looks to me like they did. All of a sudden the cockpit looks like it's got a little space in it, a little room. I'm standing back here and looking toward the helm now. And yeah, definitely out of the way here. It'll be nice to build this whole thing back up and put a nice U-shaped bench back here, which Deb and I will do on our own. That way it's not just myself only that can sit down, or the captain. And that is a crazy bollard. I mean, it looks like something you could tow a ship with, for crying out loud.
So with my request to go ahead and have the fiberglass deck work done as well, I spent some time talking to Michael and the guys at the yard about what our process would actually be. And what we're talking about doing is essentially running fiberglass up from the bottom of the tow rail down the inner bulwarks and across the deck, and then up onto those doghouse, about halfway up the doghouse. Obviously that would all be blended in, and it would certainly look good. We're also talking about essentially filling in this small divot on the far left-hand side. So right now it's there for water to run sort of down along the edge of the hull and out to a few different drains. Instead, we're talking about putting a thin piece of wood inside of that, epoxying it down, and then glassing right over the whole thing. And then shaping and forming the drains that go out the side of the boat. That's going to reduce some of the labor and effort around it and still give me the adequate draining I need. So it's quite a bit of work to be done up here. It was a very interesting discussion. I think we're going to go ahead and look at having it done.
So if you remember, this is the gooseneck track, and before it had one that was outbound bolts, and this one gets tapped right down through the center, so it's good and strong. That's nice. It works pretty well for us. Obviously I'll have a nice little decorative piece, I think, on the end. Hey everybody. Hey, so as we're having the wooden mast changed to an aluminum one, it comes with an inside track. So we just ran over to the sail loft. We brought our mizzen over, and they gave us a bunch of different ones. We're about to try them and see which ones fit the best. I think I like these double lined ones to help reduce any load, especially given that we have a fully battened mizzen. Yep. Check it out. As most of you know, we've been dealing with the deck and the deck leaks for quite some time. One of the other things we decided to do was get a quote for basically redoing the deck. That means completely grinding the deck down, putting new layers of fiberglass down on it, going up the sides of the gunnels, and all the way up the coach house side walls to the roof. It's a big project, but I think we're going to go ahead and move forward with it. So one of the things we're going to do this week is, with the holiday weekend, we're going to try and remove some of the things that are going to be in the way. There's some hardware along the insides of the hull, just inside the tow rails. We have the stanchion bases. There's also the rack, and I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on the name of the darn thing, around the mast. I'm going to think of it and stick the word right down here. I can't believe I can't remember. We're going to remove that too. Ah, thank you. The wife behind the camera remembered. The belaying pins, the belaying rack. So at the base of the mast, we have a nice belaying rack all the way around. In order to really fiberglass this well, we want to remove that, put the glass right up to the actual opening where the mast goes down through the deck, and then obviously put that back. There's some spots on it that are rotted, so we'll rebuild it. Now's the time to get it off of there. So we'll take you up top. We'll show you some of that stuff too. There's quite a bit of work going on. And as you can see, I'll tell you, this is like a mirror. I mean, I could literally shave right here in this reflection. It's phenomenal. And I can't wait to see what it looks like with the nice stainless steel chain plates and then the bronze ports. It's going to look phenomenal. So, I'm excited.
Would give you a sneak peek. It still has the masking on it, but you can see the black stripe just where the ports are here, and then also a black stripe just above the waterline. So it's hard to get the visual of all of it, but I do love the black stern. I think this is going to just look phenomenal.
I'll admit I'm biased, but I sure like the black. I can't wait to see it with the masking off of it. All right, so we're up on deck prepping for some of the work. So you can see right back here at the base of the mast, we went ahead and moved the belaying pin rack around the mast. And the reason why is they're going to essentially need a glass right up to that opening where the deck and the mast come together, when the mast goes through it. The big puzzle is there is a beautiful frame, nicely jointed all the way around it. I don't really want to break it in half, which I was considering. I think I'm just going to leave it right there and refinish it in place, sort of. I'm going to hang it there. If we're not pulling the stick, there's no reason to mess with it. And then you can see at the base here, we have essentially a large step, and we're going to cut that right along the edge of the stainless, and then I can put new wood right along the outer edge of it, and essentially mount the spindles and the belaying rack right back down to it. You might have seen in the video earlier, there's threaded rods that go all the way from the bottom side of the deck through some backing board, through the deck itself, up through the spindles, and then connect right up into these small openings with bungs in them. But it lets you have essentially a nut and washer on either end. So while I'm busy up on deck, Deb is actually down below, and she is removing the nuts off of the stanchions. And we're taking all the stanchion bases off. Again, save a little bit of labor from the yard where we pull those things off, and that way there's not charge the hourly rate to do that kind of work. So we're doing that right now. Let me show you what that looks like. Just do what you got to do to get something done. Let me show you what Deb's doing down here. Trying to get the stanchions off. But she's able to do it if she gets herself half in the cabinet and half in the sink. Wave, everybody.
Just don't turn on the water.
Well, I think with that we're going to call it a night. We have all but about 1, 2, 3, 4 stanchions left. It's good progress for tonight. It's getting dark, and I don't want to fall off the ladder in the dark. I promised Michael I wouldn't. You said I had permission to work on my boat and not hurt myself, so I won't do that. Hey everybody, thanks for watching, and please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or even Tumblr. Please take a moment and go over to our website at svdreamchaser.com to download free resources for cruising and how-to projects. Get your thumbs and mouses ready. We also have a couple of links right on the screen for some other playlists and videos that we think you'll enjoy. Thanks for watching, fellow dreamers.